So, hi, I just got in the mail from Steve So and Vac the Wi-Fi device for the version 9 software. The device, it comes in a very good package. I appreciate Bernina's presentation, so this would be a good thing to store your device when you're not using it. The device itself is in this. It's kind of tight to get out of this thing, so just be patient with it, but you know, it's a relatively small device. It has a USB-C port here, and underneath this packaging, if you lift up on this, and again just kind of work it slowly unless you're just wanting to tear it open, you're going to find that you have a USB 3 cable to USB-C, and this part will go into this device, this part of the device here. This part will go into your Bernina 790 or your 880 or any of the compatible Bernina machines that will take this. Also, if you have, say, a Baby Lock Solaris and you wanted to transfer designs through V9 software, this would be an option. You may know that the Solaris has its own built-in Wi-Fi, and we transfer designs using palette software, and that was a topic for a different class. But these can be used, like if you have a Husqvarna Viking compatible machine, like an Epic or say an SE, any of those machines, Diamond, those will work with this as well, which is cool. Inside here also was a very abbreviated little instruction booklet on the steps going to set this up. And the first thing I'm going to point out to you is wearing a 2.4 gigahertz network. So when I go on to the computer side of things, I'll show you what that's all about. The network, or the routers, come either as 5 gigahertz or 2.5 gigahertz in general, and this device requires a 2.5. Some of you have routers where you can switch the speeds, 5 gigahertz versus 2.5. Mine does not have that. It's kind of built into my cottage, so I use something called a D-Link, which gives me another way of routing. I use that with my Solaris, by the way, and so I'm hoping it will also work with the Bernina Wi-Fi device, but that is, again, at that 2.4 gigahertz, and that's important. Once again, the router needs to be at 2.4. So with that being said, we're going to go over to the computer now. So here you have my desktop, and the first thing I want to show you is how to determine what your gigahertz is with your router. So if you go to the lower right hand corner, this is your Wi-Fi signal, and if you click on this, this is the network that I default to, and if you click on properties, what you'll see is that it will tell you if it's a public versus a private. This is a private, of course, and as I come further down, this is what I'm interested in here. The network bandwidth is at 5 gigahertz, and per Bernina they want this to be 2.5, not 5 gigahertz. And so what I have here is I have other networks that I can come into, and I'm going to go ahead and connect to this D-Link, which is my private little network. I don't want to connect automatically because this does not give me internet connection to the greater world. This is just a router. So I'm going to go ahead and connect here. And then if I go under properties here and I scroll down, same thing here, but notice that the network bandwidth is 2.4 gigahertz. That's what you want. Again, this D-Link, it's a pretty common router type technology. They have lots of different tech out there, but what you're going to want is your personal router. And it's really good if you have things that can connect via Wi-Fi, but you don't necessarily need to connect to the internet with that, if you know what I mean. So first thing that they tell us to do is make sure that we're on that 2.4 gigahertz router. I am. They say to launch the Bernina Wi-Fi connector, and it's this one here that's like the big W. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. And so we are greeted with this screen here. If you notice, I was kind of checking to see if the program was still running, because it takes a while, right? But you need to wait till you get to this screen. And then what you're going to do, and I have the camera now to the side of my computer. Here's my Bernina Wi-Fi device. Here's the USB 3 connector. And I'm going to plug this into the side of my device. And what's going to happen is there's going to be lights that come on here. And what you're going to want to do is you have to wait till all of the lights are on. And they did say in the instruction that it might take up to 2 minutes to initialize. I'm waiting here for a little bit. And what I've noticed is only 2 of these lights have come on, not this third one. And in the picture it doesn't show it, but it does say ensure all lights are in setup mode. So I'm presuming it's these 2, like this one is on, this one, the Wi-Fi symbol is flashing, and this one is not lit, but that may be setup mode. So the next step is to run the setup wizard, and how you do that is you're going to go ahead and click on this Add New Bernina Wi-Fi Device. And that's going to be an interesting thing. So what I have here is it's failed because I'm not connected to the internet. So let me see how I'm going to problem solve this, and I'll be right back. So what I did off camera was I went back to my Wi-Fi connection, and I went from D-Link back over to the one that connects to the internet. So hopefully we get the licensing information. So again, I do this online for you. I take the effort to do this because you're going to run into this stuff too. So hopefully this will keep the hair on your head. So again, I'm going to click on Add New Wi-Fi Device. And at least at this point, I'm not greeted by, you need to. So let's see, Bernina Wi-Fi tag. Okay, please select one of the available wireless networks or select Add a Wireless Network. And so again, the network I need to be on this, again, is that 2.4 gigahertz, not the regular MVNet. And if you noticed, it's not even in the list of possible networks because I guess it realizes that it's a 5 gigahertz network and it's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and say this D-Link is what I want, and I'm going to click on Next. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in all of this information, and I will be back with y'all. So I put in the password. Also, as an aside, I do like when they have wizards like this where you can check this and you can see the actual password you put in. So if you need to confirm that you typed in everything correctly, including capital letters where they need to be capital letters, you can just put a check mark there. So let me go ahead and click on Next. By the way, under user's name, it's kind of grayed out. I can't click on it, so I'm presuming it knows what it's doing. So let's click on Next. And boy, so I'm going to read through all of this and get back to you. So I did have a chance to read through this, and it's fairly straightforward. But God, when you're greeted with another screen where they're asking all this information, they really could have put this in the instructions, but that is what it is. So Bernina Wi-Fi device name, you could put it like, my Bernina 880, or come on, man. That's what I wanted to put it in, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say Bernina Fab Machine, because the machines are fab. So yeah, the Bernina Fab Machine. I'm not going to say an 880 or a 790 because I'm going to use it on either or. In this one here, output file type, it defaults to the Bernina EXP Plus. I would recommend, if you have a Plus machine, and again, if you have a Plus machine, you can do this. If not, don't. But I'm going to go ahead and select PES, because if I wanted to put this on a baby locked machine that didn't have Wi-Fi, I could certainly do that. But I can still use this on a Bernina 880, a 790, anything that is a Plus machine, if you've had that upgrade, including now the 770 got a Plus upgrade recently, so that's a big yahoo. This thing about rotating design by 180 degrees on output, I'm going to leave that unchecked. I'm just going to have it at the rotation that I have. I imagine if you're doing a lot of things with the hoop rotated 90 degrees, that might be a thought. This Bernina Wi-Fi device folder, I would leave everything at the root just so that you can see. They also have like the EMBF folder, but I would say leave it at that. This might be, I'm thinking this might be for Genomes, because Genome machines, embroidery machines, they have to have their design files not in the root but in a folder similar to this, so that might be the case there, but just leave it in as a root. The machine brand we're going to say is a Bernina, and I'm going to go ahead and just put in an 880, but you could put in whatever you want, I am sure. So I'm going to go ahead and click Finish, and I have this little guy here. It is showing me a big old X there. That's interesting. And I'm gonna go ahead and just turn back on the Wi-Fi. Oh, this has been. Okay. The reason why this might be X'd is because I am not connected to that D-Link server. It would be nice in a future update if they make this compatible with 5 gigahertz networks. I'm just putting it out there. So let me go ahead and click here, say connect. Perfect. So you see now I've got a green check mark. So yeah, what can you say? It is what it is. This just has to do with palette software. It is what it is. It was a little bit, how to say, interesting, but I'm glad I went through this with you. Now what I'm going to do next is, first of all, I want to show you something. So I'm going to get back on the camera, and let me turn this guy on. And I just want you to see on the camera that this is now green, this is now solid, and this, importantly, is on as well. And that means that there's been a successful connection using that. So, yay-hoo. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to actually physically put this on the machine. So off camera, and I repeat, off camera, what I did is I took the device, the Wi-Fi device, out of the computer. This interface was still open, the Wi-Fi connector, and I got a red X here, which I would presume would be the case because it's no longer powered because it's out of the computer. I went over to, in this case it was a Bernina 790, and I plugged it into the side USB port. That's where you would put your USB stick if you were transferring designs in that fashion. It did say that when you do plug into the machine, that you need to wait a couple of minutes for it to reinitialize. And I will say that initially when I plugged it in, the little red light, power light came on. and then this began to flash, and then finally this thing came on and I got a green check mark. So physically on the device, all three of these lights should be on in order for this to be making the Wi-Fi connection. So I will say that if it's not, to give it more time, and if it's still giving you problems, you need to go back through your config settings and make sure that everything was put in correctly. But if it did make a connection to the Wi-Fi router that you have when it was plugged into the machine, your computer I should say, then it should do the same when it's plugged into the machine. When you're transferring designs in the V9 software, it is important that you have this program on in the background, so you initialize that connection. And again, that was the big W, the big aqua or teal W here that I connected, and I made sure that this was checked. So I'm just going to minimize. I'm not closing it. I'm just minimizing this. Now I'm in our Bernina V9 interface. I'm just going to pick up a design. So I'm going into the embroidery library. I'm going to pick up this EXP, what have you, and I'm going to say open selected. You could also double click on that. It's just telling me that this is not a grade A or grade B, yada yada, and I'm going to say okay, and I've got the design here. Now, good thing that we're seeing is that this Wi-Fi device is now highlighted. It seems to be active, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is send this to the machine. This is also a very good thing, a connector was found. Everyone go, yay, a connector was found. And so this is the connector here. Notice that the output format that I have is set as a PES. I can, it looks like, come down here and select a different type of output, your EXP3 or EXP Plus, etc. The reason why this is looking funky is this is a darn 4K monitor. So I'll let Bernina know that this needs to be revamping, because most computers have 4K monitors right now. I can also rotate the design by 180 on output. I could also do that in the machine. So I'm going to click on send. And it says it's sending this design, yada yada. This may take a while, and we have a progress bar. And then this says it's sent to the machine. It has been sent. That's a good thing, and I'm going to say okay. So it should have worked the magic. So what I'm going to do off camera is, because you don't need to see me looking at my machine on, well, maybe you do. Maybe you do. I'm going to go ahead, because I really want to go the extra mile for you, and I'm going to go across my room. And this is a good test for this Wi-Fi capability, because my computer is on one side of this studio, and my machine is on the way over yonder on the other side. So let me pause the video here, and I'm going to go over to the machine, and we'll take it up from there. So I navigated to my my open folder, and I went to the USB stick, because this is behaving like a USB stick. And let me just come in front of the camera for a second. I'm going to pull this across this way, and you can see how all of the lights on this little gizmo, the power light, the Wi-Fi, and the progress bar are all lit. That's important. So if I click on this design here, it brings it into the hoop, and all is well, and I can go ahead and do my thing. I can send more than one design onto this. Think of this as a USB stick, and you can also save it to the machine. That's for a guide lesson. That's not for today. But if I fill this up, because it's not an unlimited capacity, just like a USB stick, I would need to take things off of the device. Now, the last thing I do want to say is, again, with the device, this thing came with the with your kit. It's like one of these double stick tapes, like you could put, I don't know, something onto a wall, like it's one of these quick release things. It's a double sticky thing, and there's a place here that you can pull this in order to release the tape, but once you do that, it's done. What I would recommend is you could take this, and you could certainly put it to the back of the machine, just as they were suggesting, using the double stick tape, and then you would stick it to the back of the machine if you were so inclined. I'm going to just take this darn thing and put it on the back onto the ground, not on the ground, but on the table behind the machine, of course, and it can just live there happily. The other thing is, if I am not transferring any more designs with this, I can certainly unplug it. Again, it's like a USB stick, right? The other thing you might want to be inclined to do, especially if you have more than one machine that you're using this device with, is you might elect to go ahead and use a piece of Velcro on the back of this and a piece of Velcro on the back of machine A, and you would stick it to the back like such, and then say this is the fluffy side, and on the machine is the prickly side. Get another prickly and put that on machine B, and you can follow. You'd put that onto the machine B, and then you could have that put up and out of the way. So again, the device was a little convoluted in setting up, but I think the big take homes with this is, number one, make sure that you go into the W program, the W icon, which sets up the Wi-Fi device. The device has to be plugged into your computer. Make sure that your router is a 2.4 gigahertz router. If you can change it from 5 gigahertz to 2.4 gigahertz, bless you, do that. If you're like me and you're at 5 gigahertz, get yourself an additional router. Again, D-Link was the company that I used, but there are several out there. Netgear, that type of thing, can also do that for you. But it needs to be 2.4 gigahertz. Once you have the device plugged in, patience is a virtue. You do need to make sure that those two lights, the green light and that Wi-Fi light, are on. And then you can go ahead and put in information about the Wi-Fi adapter that you're using, the router, I should say, that you're using, the password, all those things that you saw me do. Once that's done, and you have everything going well, it's important that if you're offline, that you have to go back online in order for the licensing thing to work correctly. You can then go back offline and using the Wi-Fi that's at 2.4 gigahertz as you would have expected. Just make sure all three lights are on. Unplug it from your computer. Plug it into your machine. Again, patience is a virtue. Wait until all three lights are on. When you're going to work with this on your computer, you need to once again open up that W program. That needs to be opened first, and then go ahead and open up your V9 software. Bring in whatever you're going to bring in. Click the little Wi-Fi icon at the upper top of the interface, and it will send it over, and that's what brought us back here. So I hope that this has been of use to you. Again, appreciate the business that you give to Steve's Sew and Vac in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, and I look forward to having you in Bernina software clubs in the future. Floriani, Perfect Embroidery Pro, Palette Software, all those programs that will work with your Bernina machine and the Wi-Fi connector. And last thing I will say, again, the Wi-Fi connector can work with other machines other than Bernina. Take care, and thanks for the attention.